Once upon a time, there lived a mischievous ruler who was very fat and very ignorant. This ruler had a servant, thin, bisexual, and very clever. This servant used every opportunity to show off his intelligence and cleverness, and soon the ruler fell in love with his servant so much that he rarely separated from him. The ruler always said to his servant, "Promise you will never leave me." And the servant would always reply, "Never, sir. Wherever you are, whether in this world, whether in heaven or hell, I will always be with you." And this word made the ruler very happy. One evening the ruler, after a walk by the river, was returning to his palace, and as always, his servant was with him. Suddenly they heard the howling of foxes from a nearby forest. The ruler got curious. He turned to the servant and asked, "Why are these foxes howling even when we are passing by?" The servant replied, "Sir, as you know, this winter is very cold. These poor foxes don't have warm clothes. They are begging you for a blanket." "Ah, I understand," said the ruler. "You are so smart that you understand the language of foxes. But why have they not been given blankets?" The servant, who was not happy with the blanket merchant, said, "Sir, the blanket merchant is to blame." The ruler said, "How bad! How dare he deprive these dear foxes of blankets? Okay, tell this merchant to wrap the blankets in a blanket and throw them into the sea. Then buy 100 blankets and distribute them among my friends, these foxes." The servant hurried to execute the ruler's order. Of course, he only carried out the first half of the order, that is, the merchant threw the blankets into the sea and took money from the treasury to buy blankets for the foxes, which he never bought. The next evening, while walking by the river, the howling of foxes again reached the ruler's ears. The ruler was surprised and asked, "What is it again? Why are they howling?" "Sir, they are thanking you with this," replied the servant with a smile. The ruler said, "How good! It's good that I have a wise and honest servant like you. Promise you will never leave me." "I will always be by your side, in heaven even in hell," the servant assured. The ruler was very happy, but his happiness did not last long, because at this time, a small boar suddenly ran out of the forest. The governor, who had never seen a boar before, exclaimed in surprise, "My God! What other animal is this?" Of course, the maid knew what that beast was, but he replied softly, "Sir, this is one of your elephants, fallen to this day, because the person in charge of feeding the elephants does not give them food." The ruler was very angry and immediately ordered the killing of that official. Then he asked his servant to receive as much money as necessary and to make sure that the poor animals are given proper food. A month has passed. One day in the evening, when the ruler was returning to the palace with his servant, he met a boar. He was surprised and asked the servant, "Is this the same hungry elephant we saw that day? How come he didn't get fatter?" The servant laughed so hard that his wisdom teeth were visible. Then he said, "No, sir, that elephant is now your noble body. This animal you see is actually a mouse. But enough has been eaten in the kitchen that it is so dirty, and it shows how careless the cook is." The ruler turned red with anger, rolled his eyes and said gloriously, "It's a pity! A mouse eats my delicious food because of the carelessness of the cook." And he immediately ordered that the cook be hanged after he had prepared tonight's dinner. That night, the cook secretly came to the ruler's servant and brought a large amount of money with him. He begged the servant to save his life. In return, he will cook for her any food she wants. The naughty servant was happy and said to the cook, "Don't worry. Your salvation is with me." In the middle of the night, just as they were about to hang the cook in front of the ruler, the servant ran forward and shouted, "Hold your hands! Hold hands!" Then he turned to the ruler and said, "Sir, now I looked at the astronomical calendar and realized that this hour is the hour of Sod. Whoever is hanged in this hour will be in heaven. Hanging the cook at this time is not his punishment at all, but rather a reward. Why should we send such a vile person to heaven?" In front of the surprised eyes of the present, the ruler suddenly jumped up and said happily, "It's good! It was great! I wanted to see heaven for a long time. Hang me in his stead, that I may see heaven at once. But wait." Then he turned to the servant and said, "My dear friend, you always promised me that you would be with me everywhere. Now I'm going to heaven, you be my guide. Hang him first, executioner." Before the evil servant could utter a word, the guards put the noose around his neck and the executioner hauled him up. The ruler was happy that the minister had accepted his proposal unconditionally. After sending the minister to heaven, the executioner went to the ruler, and this was what he himself wanted. And whether they reached heaven or not, no one knows.